Hey, this is Warren Redlick. I am here in my Model X Plaid. I want to talk about the Yoke steering wheel. There's been a lot of criticism of the Yoke steering wheel. I love it. I drove it across the country and back. I've got over 6,500 miles on the Yoke so far, and I love it. A couple things I want to talk about. First of all, my Model 3 is the next car over. And the Model 3, the steering wheel is under 14 inches in diameter. This is a little over 15 inches in diameter, so it's a little bit longer. So one of the things I really like about it is you have more leverage when you're holding the wheel because you're further from the center of the hub. The other thing I really like about it is that you've got these corners to grab. So if you're going to drive one-handed, you can grab a corner here, you can grab a corner here, and it's easy. I'm going to show you this driving, that it's easier to manipulate the wheel with one hand with the yoke. I'm not saying that's how you should drive it. I'm just saying a lot of people do drive one-handed a lot of the time, and I find it easier to drive the yoke one-handed. The one thing is, if you have a habit of going like this, there's nothing here, so that's a little awkward. If you have a habit of hitting a lever for the turn signal, that's a little awkward. My biggest complaint about this yoke steering wheel is the turn signal buttons. This is for a right turn. This is for a left turn. I have 6,900 miles on this car, and I'm still not used to left and right. The windshield wiper button is here. The microphone button is here. The headlight, like for putting your brights on, is over here. The horn is over here. One thing I think could make this steering wheel the buttons a lot more intuitive is if there was a little bit of a depression. These are flat surfaces, so you don't have a feeling for when you're on the spot. But if there was a little bit of a depression here, then I would know. Because when I was driving and I was trying to control the brights, because the car tries to control the brights well, but it's not always right. So I would reach over to do this, and it'd be like, am I on the spot? Am I on the spot? I don't know if I'm in the spot. So if they made this yoke with a slight depression where the buttons are supposed to be, my big suggestion for Elon, if you're watching this, I know you're probably not watching this, is I would move the right turn signal lever over here, the left turn signal lever up, so they're intuitive, right? Right's the right hand, left's the left hand. Move the windshield wiper button down here, because when you do the windshield wiper, a thing pops up to control the windshield wipers, and it's controlled by this left scroll wheel. So if this windshield wiper button was here, then it would be a natural, intuitive thing for the scroll wheel to be right next to the button that controls the windshield wiper. The microphone, if you're used to a Tesla, the right scroll wheel, I think in some situations is a microphone button, so moving the microphone button next to that is a little counterintuitive. Sometimes I hit this button, the scroll wheel, when I want to hit the microphone button, but you figure it out, and it's not mission critical. It's not a big deal. And then the fact that the horn is here, that's kind of counterintuitive. I don't think people necessarily think of that. But anyway, let me show you what it's like to drive the car one-handed with the yoke, and you can see what I mean. But one of the nice things about Model X is I don't have to shift gears. There is an option to shift here, but I just tap the brake pedal, and it knows I want to go forward because I'm backed into a parking spot. So here I am grabbing the corner, and I'm turning the wheel, and I have more leverage on the wheel, and it's easier to control. It's easier to find a grab point. I think everybody's going to find their own way of grabbing the wheel or the yoke, but it's just easier to control because you're further from the center. So we'll go to the right. It's a blind corner. I hate this corner in my neighborhood, but you can see how I'm controlling the wheel very easily with one hand. Number one, it's got great power steering and all that, but you sort of put pressure. I'm pushing into the wheel, and I get complete control of the wheel. I'm not recommending this. I think it's always better to drive two hands on the wheel if you can. I think that the design of the yoke is that you have your hands here, but practical reality is a lot of us are distracted, or we use one hand for something else while we're driving, so it's nice to be able to drive. Let's turn the nav off. So, especially, like you're doing something on the screen, it's nice to be able to control the wheel with, now I'm using my left hand, and you can just see how easy it is to control that. So this notion people have that there's going to be some situation where you're turning the wheel and you lose, you're turning the yoke and you're losing track of where you are, I think is silly. It's a very easy to control. I think this design is brilliant, and as you can see, I'm having basically zero trouble controlling the yoke with one hand. Like I said, I would change these buttons around a little bit, but I'm personally very impressed with the yoke. I think it's a great thing. I think this is brilliant. When I get my Cybertruck, Elon, please put the yoke on the Cybertruck. I want a yoke. I don't want to go back to a wheel. I've gotten used to this is the thing. I haven't gotten used to the buttons. but I've gotten used to the Yoke, and I do not want to go back to a regular steering wheel. I just drove the Model 3, and which I hadn't driven in a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I like my FSD beta, which I have in the 3. I don't have FSD beta on this car. Elon, get me beta. Overall, I think the Yoke is a great thing. I'm very pleased with it, and I recommend it. And I think anybody who doesn't get the Yoke, you just got to drive. Honestly, it took me like a few hours to get used to it. And then this one-hand driving is something that I got more used to later. So I recommend that. I think, like the buttons, I'm still not used to. The location of the turn signal buttons, I'm still not used to. I think they could make this a lot more intuitive. But you can see right here, I'm controlling the Yoke, no problem. It just takes a little bit of practice, and not even that much, and you're good. So, thank you so much for watching. I love the Yoke. I hope you love it too. Get yourself an X, an S. Wait for Cybertruck. Hopefully they'll start deploying these in other cars as well. Thank you so much for watching.